One Piece post Wano has been providing us with many crazy moments and so many topics to speak about. Within the newest arc of Elbaph, we have gotten incredible lore, character introductions, and future moments to look forward to. With it as it is in every arc, we are all curious and very excited to see who will be labeled as the strongest warrior of Elbaph once the arc is over. Obviously, there are certain characters we haven't even seen fight yet, but know are going to soon, and will carry insane powers with them. But which one of these guys is going to be the strongest? What's up guys, my name is Verdix, and if you enjoy content like this, I recommend you go ahead and click that subscribe button. I put out quality content like this weekly, you won't want to miss. Now, how I will be going about this video is going over all the characters that do have a realistic chance and give them an argument for them being the strongest and giving an argument against. And I wanted to start with Loki because this is the guy that might be the main villain of Elbaph. Obviously, with Shamrock's introduction and overwhelming presence we will get into later, people have assumed that Shamrock will be the antagonist of Elbaph, but I disagree. While Shamrock does have a lot of potential already in his early debut, whoever the main antagonist of the arc is will usually be the main one trying to be put down. Throughout Elbaph, the main thing that has been constantly being put in front of us is the freedom followed by the defeat of Loki. After all, Elbaph is the Island of Giants, so I don't doubt that when we are at the end of the arc, the main threat to Luffy and the Straw Hats will be Loki. Being that Elbaph also has ties to Shanks, we know that this is where Luffy will have to do something that Shanks hears about and will truly admire. As Shanks knows Loki's strength, being the man who did defeat him prior years ago and chained him up because he is so strong, which is also why Gabon feels the need to test Luffy's strength, because even though he defeated Kaido, he still doesn't know if he will be strong enough to defeat Loki. Even when Luffy met him earlier in the arc, Loki was able to dodge a Snake Man punch from Luffy despite being chained up. These can all give some very good arguments for Loki being the strongest here, and there are more fingers pointing towards Loki being the main antagonist of the arc than Shamrock. Speaking of, we have seen Shamrock and Loki interact, where Shamrock uses his sword Cerberus Devil Fruit powers to shoot out attacks at Loki that he does state he might not be able to survive. These attacks by Shamrock are basic and don't seem to be anything special. Loki being defeated by Shanks years ago and chained up could also nerf him and make him very rusty. He definitely won't feel fresh coming into his first fight when he is freed. So I do think Loki will most likely be the main antagonist of the arc, and with him being the main threat, you could give him the title of the strongest. But let's see what the others have to offer. So since I went over a feat of his already, we might as well start talking about Shanks' twin and for Garland Shamrock. During his introduction a short time ago, we learn not only is he the twin brother of Shanks and second son of Garling, but he will also play a very critical part in the endgame, being the leader of the Holy Knights, along with the Hidden Man in the panel asking who will claim the One Piece. He also seems to be able to teleport to locations on will, the same way the Gorosei did, so there could be a potential connection with Imu here. While in Elbaph, like I stated before, he was able to shoot out his sword Cerberus heads at Loki, in which Loki isn't sure he will survive, but most definitely will. However, after he does this, when he leaves, he tells Loki if he manages to live and becomes free, then to go fight him. He is saying this with a very confident demeanor and doesn't seem to be worried about fighting a free Loki. There is a heavy implication, at least to me, that Shamrock is stronger than Loki, but most definitely is being set up for much higher status during the endgame, as like I stated, he is the leader of the Holy Knights, and being that they are bound to play a big role in the final war, the story will have them, and by proxy Shamrock, produce crazy feats that matches with some endgame opponents. Remember that the Knights are the main priority of the Revolutionary Army, and being the leader of the Knights, I believe Shamrock will end up fighting Sabo at the end of the series, and maybe even Dragon for a short time. He also is a prime for Garland, who are a very strong family, and being that he is now a part of one of the most important families in One Piece, he can have some other possible, not definite, but possible special lineage that they carry if one does exist. He is one of the guys I think has the better arguments amongst the men listed here, and there is no solid proof for this, but he could be around Shanks in strength, being his twin, and since he is the leader of the Holy Knights, I believe he will also end up having Conqueror's Haki. So Shamrock has a lot pushing for him to be the strongest on Elbaph right now, but the list is not over. When Shamrock and Loki were introduced, we thought we were done with the hype debuts, but some of us forgot about the sort of reintroduction and revival of Scopper Gabon. Now, not only was the dude introduced by somehow, some way, being able to smash a giant baddie, but according to the Giants, he stood shoulder to shoulder in strength with both Rayleigh and his former captain and king of the pirates, Gol D. Roger. I just recently made a video about this if you care to know more details about this statement, but I am of the opinion that this was more of a fame thing, as the Japanese expression used here was the same when calling Jinbei and Arlong equals, and we know that is not close to the case in terms of strength. However, just because he isn't as strong as Roger doesn't mean he can't be the strongest on Elbaph, as Gabon is currently about to fight Luffy because he isn't sure he could take down Loki and wants to test his strength to make sure. Not only is he unsure of Luffy's strength compared to Loki's, but he knows he took down Kaido, and it still doesn't convince him that he is strong enough to beat Loki, and is challenging him because of that. However, you guys have probably noticed that it is a lot of Gabon hyping up Loki, and that's the thing here. He seems to be more worried about Loki than anyone else right now, even though he probably doesn't know Shamrock is on the island. I'm going to be more blunt about Gabon than I was with the others and tell you guys that I don't feel he is the strongest simply because of old age and story progression needing to happen as it does with every story ever told. If Luffy isn't shown stronger than Gabon, he will definitely be come the end of the arc. Speaking of Luffy, he is the last guy to be talked about today, as I'm not going to entertain the bullshit idea and even mention Zoro for the people that are delusional enough to think that. But Luffy probably has the best chances to be the strongest here, as when he's using Gear 5, these attacks are enough to constantly overpower the Gorosei, but when applying Conqueror's Haki to his attacks, he could take down Kaido and even Kizaru for a short period. He is also one of the characters that can contend with anyone in speed, as he does match both Kaido and Kizaru multiple times, if not straight up outspeed Kaido in particular, as well as endure the full blunt of Kaido's attacks and pretty much laughs them all off. He also gains 2 post-island buffs after this, along with fighting against the Gorosei and a bit against Kizaru, before Kizaru becomes too depressed to move. The Gorosei can combat against both Zoro and Sanji while Luffy is effortlessly throwing them away. I also think he will beat Gabon in their upcoming fight, even though as of now it is purely a hypothetical. Luffy also carries more weight to his name than Loki does, as when viewing both their bounties, Luffy is valued more than Loki is. Loki, like I said, has been locked up for years and won't be anything but rusty coming out of his chains. As for Shamrock, well, this is where we can do nothing but speculate for the current moment in time, until we learn more about Shamrock's strength some more. Luffy is a dude that you have to really prove you can defeat. If Shamrock shows great power, it still might not be enough. But the one thing that he most likely will have going for him against Luffy, as does everyone, is Luffy's massive stamina problem. Being that Gear 5 only lasts for 5 minutes, Luffy might be stronger than Shamrock and Loki, but he might not outlast them in a fight. But being the plot demands it, there will probably be a random supply of food to boost Luffy back up and defeat them. It really just comes down to me having to come up with major speculations to get Shamrock and Loki where we are currently at above the likes of Luffy. The future can 100% change this. It is not a definite, but as of now, I'm gonna say Luffy is the strongest due to a lack of evidence to support the other warriors on this list. Until I see otherwise, Luffy will most likely leave the island being the strongest person that was present. Well, that's it for you guys. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps with the algorithm. Let me know what you guys think, who will be the strongest on Elbaph and why. As always, shout out to Tiberius for the thumbnail. If you would like some of your own, make sure to hit him up on Twitter, link in the description, as well as my Twitter @Vertix_ for more of my takes. And without further ado, you guys can get out of here.